Hello, everyone. My name is Santina and welcome. Today, we are going to discuss my topic for my research proposal paper. And my topic is being the Scared Straight programs and what exactly it does regarding juvenile recidivism. I think that this is a very interesting topic that should be talked about and wanting to know if the programs that we are sending to the children, is it actually doing anything? Juvenile recidivism can be defined as a tendency of a young convicted criminal, um, their opportunity or their tendency to reoffend. Unlike adult offenders, adult offenders, juvenile offenders have more resources and more programs that's focused on rehabilitation and actually getting them back on the right track. There are way more opportunities and resources. I've always wondered, why haven't this approach, why hasn't this approach been taken regarding adult offenders? However, today we're going to focus on juvenile offenders. Um, the whole purpose of the programs are to deter them from continuing on the same process that they have been on before. And I plan on using multiple databases, we're proposing to use multiple databases and different instruments in measuring the effectiveness of the actual Scared Straight program. Juvenile recidivism can be caused by many different influences. Influences that include personality disorder, um, substance abuse, friends or family, using drugs, being brought up in that type of environment where, illicit drug use is the norm. It is okay to happen. And there's also peer influence. The friends, children are impressionable at those ages, young teenagers wanting to fit in with the crowd, want to be a part, wanting to feel cool. And those type of influences actually sometimes have more of an effect than outside influences because at that age they want to be accepted. So they're more of a sponge, and it is a really vulnerable time for them to absorb bad behavior. Socioeconomic status can also be an issue for juvenile recidivism. I mean, if you look at the environment that they may be brought up in, um, you know, sometimes a lot of these crimes are committed, petty crimes, property crimes, theft, stuff like that. Is more from a survival standpoint. Is the have, the culture of the have and have nots. And I really do think that majority of the juveniles that have been frequent offenders, they are in, lower socioeconomic groups. And that is unfortunately where a lot of minorities, um, you know, are. And so you look at that, and of course, family background, kind of I mentioned it earlier. Family, when there is a history of offenders and getting in and out of jail or in and out of the judicial system, or always, gangs, family has a big influence as well. And if you are brought up in that environment and it seems okay and it is thought of no big deal, so what, I committed the crime, hey, I'm back, I can keep bouncing back. It creates um, a norm that should not be. And if you have a family, constantly in and out, whether it's mom, dad, brother, uncle, cousin, sister, um, it really has an effect on the child because the repercussions may not seem as serious because I know people who have done it and, they seem okay. This is the way of life. And that's something that these Scared Straight programs are to deter the young people from thinking it doesn't have to be this way. You do have a choice, and the choice is to not participate in these type of activities. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Scared Straight program, what it involves a visit to the jail or prison, so they can get a firsthand experience themselves. It's designed as a deterrent. By throwing them in these situations, seeing the horrible circumstances and hearing the stories, they are to take away from the experience and decide, I no longer want to continue on this path. So that is the whole thing, scared straight, that's the metaphor that they're using. However, does it really work? Is it really effective? And that's why I proposed this research. I figured by, if we study the preventative measures that are in place for the juveniles and examine them through follow-up practices, and figure out if it really affected them. And also, I think by looking at the release from incarceration after they have been released, we can see if it made an impact on them. Was it just something to do? Was it a waste of time? Did they actually get something from it? Have they now decided maybe this isn't the path that I want to be on? That is what the Scared Straight program is about. I believe that this research can be backed by national statistics and accompanied with face-to-face feedback with the parents or guardians that's actually having to deal with the youthful offenders once they leave the program. I feel like that would be that their feedback live of what's going on is so valuable. It's extremely valuable. I propose that Houston County Juvenile Justice Department here put something like that in place. So that way we can determine if we are actually being proactive instead of just reactive for our youth. The study that I am proposing to measure the effectiveness of this program, I'm going to use participants. Well, I would propose using participants ages 17 and younger. Yes, I do understand some states 17 is considered adult. However, for this study here in Georgia, I would do 17 and under. And preferably, actually, I prefer and would suggest juveniles who already have established records. Not someone their first time getting in trouble, but someone who actually has an established record, has a history of being in and out, look like they're really going down the drain. Like those are the ones that I want. That's how we'll really measure the effectiveness. I think a amount of 50 subjects to monitor is great. I believe 50-50, 25 females, 25 males is great. We can measure the effectiveness, male versus female. Does that actually make a difference? Are males more affected by this? Are females more affected by this? That's why I think it's awesome to have that number divided equally so we can measure, because if program works for one group and not the other, then perhaps we could change our methods. The instrumentation that I want to use is the database at Houston County by checking the crimes that are committed, the punishments that are received, the frequency of reoffending, and then also using that information from their guardian, or parent, getting that live feedback on what exactly was going on. The past studies have all shown various different responses. Some include the false narratives like Beyond Scared Straight, the show. It seemed like it was a cure-all. They would take the children, bust them in. It was bust them in. They go to this prison jail. They get scared straight, and then they come back, and then that's supposed to be it. When in reality, those studies were saying that there are the outside influences that really have more say so. The family dynamics, the peer pressure, the substance abuse, all the issues I mentioned earlier is really the core of deterrence. Also, inconsistent approaches. Everything wasn't looked at as a scientific method. Some children were just thrown into these programs, not just necessarily the Scared Straight programs, but different boot camps and stuff like that. And was it really proactive? Was it really doing what it needed to do? Everybody's throwing out all these different ideas to stop, but I feel like if this study is done at the root, what's closest to the juvenile, it could possibly, stop them. And, there are other studies that have shown that this is temporary fix. Everything is good, everything is fine. And it lasts for a little while, and then they get back into their environment, hang around their friends, their peers, and they're right back to the influence and wanting to continue with these behaviors. That's why I say it's so important to get at the root of these causes and to track how, once those things are removed and they see what could possibly happen to them, will this program actually work here in Houston County? And I'm pretty confident of the juvenile justice system here in Houston County. I feel like they care, and if they were to give this a try and really hone in on these young people, it could definitely do some good.